Next we have Jane Doe1, understanding that your face will be shown. Okay. And did you have written testimony for us?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
And how do we know which one it is?
My name is on.
Well,
I'm going to read it anyway.
Representative Gonzalez is going to show us. Okay.
Okay. Okay. In 2011,
Okay.
I served my ex-husband with divorce. During that time, one of my children was seeing a psychologist who failed to properly diagnose and ordered my ex to use abusive treatment, which our pediatrician was against. Our GAL, attorney Rita Moore of Milford, allowed this to go on an entire summer, only meeting the children months later. My child then began seeing a psychiatrist, Dr. Eric Nicholson of Norwalk. Nicholson was our only referral, was out of our insurance network, did not specialize in my child's diagnosis. He'd see my child once a week for an hour, our family for an hour, and my ex and I for 2 hours a week for a year, which would be approximately $1,000 a week. He would get into our marital issues, such as our finances and sex life, beyond the scope of his role as my son's doctor. Family Relations recommended joint legal custody and 50% shared. 1 month later, Nicholson became my ex's hired gun in removing me from my children's lives with no grounds whatsoever. Nicholson testified and would imply to the court that I had borderline personality disorder when my own psychiatrist had diagnosed adjustment disorder, which is simply situational and anxiety and depression, which many people have going through divorce. Judge Frankel conferred authority outside the court to Nicholson, who had never served in such a role, ordering that I follow his roadmap. She said, "No one's perfect, but in order to be a good parent, you have to start out being a good and a whole person." There was blatant and unwarranted bias on behalf of this judge toward me. I was ordered by Nicholson to go to a therapist, then a psychologist, then another psychologist, all of whom testified favorably on my behalf, just as my own psychiatrist had done. I spent 16 months on supervised visitation as I jumped through Nicholson's hoops as he sought a professional to agree with him. None ever did. Nothing in 16 months of notes to justify supervision per the very doctors he sent me to. He's under investigation by the Department of Health. I sent you the complaint. My GAL spoke with Nicholson religiously, failing to speak with the other professionals, and had to be ordered to do so by the judge. She refused to waive privilege, as the testimony of my daughter's doctor would have been favorable to my daughter and I. She ignored the doctor's letter months earlier stating my daughter was suffering and needed to be with me. When the doctors disagreed with Nicholson, he fired them. My GAL acted in the best interests of my ex, not my children, being paid over $30,000, seeing my children only twice in 2.5 years, only once with me, fall 2011. I am a loving parent and was the primary caregiver, have never had any mental health issues or substance abuse, unlike my ex with a documented history of substance abuse. I have always had joint legal custody, but currently have less time with my children than he does, and he pays his sister to watch them, who never had a big role in their life. If a person in Connecticut, such as myself, divorces a spouse with money and unbridled anger, if you don't have tens of thousands of dollars for legal fees, expert witnesses, unnecessary therapy, supervised visitation, along with the mental wherewithal to withstand the mental abuse of our corrupt system, your children can lose their mother too. I fought like hell and got mine back, but all three of us been scarred.
I know, and we have it, and we can read it if it's too difficult for you,
No,
and if there are any
I'd like
questions.
I'd like to finish.
Okay.
And we'll have lasting pain from this system that did not put them first. The judge and the GAL in this case failed them, as well as my child's doctor, who took an oath to cause no harm, yet continues to see my child in a back room unsupervised, while the very doctors he referred me to describe him as iatrogenic, which means he caused more harm than good, Hitleresque, obsessive-compulsive, mental issues, cruel and inhumane. I've spent over $150,000 on legal fees. My supervision and therapy was over $35,000, and Dr. Nicholson charges $385 an hour and was paid approximately $31,000 in a year and a half alone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Tom?
Weissmuller?
I'm curious, you said you did 16 months of supervised visitation.
Yes.
Can you describe that process of supervised visitation, how long it lasts and what it costs?
I would see the children approximately an hour to 2 hours a week. I didn't get to see them for 2 months because I went and watched my son sailing, and there was nothing in the court order that said in public places I had to be supervised. And my lawyer wrote an email to Dr. Nicholson and said his threatening to take my children was unwarranted. I didn't see my kids for 2 months because I sat in an audience at my daughter's ballet recital. There was never any abuse. There was never any interaction where anyone was fighting in front of the children, nothing. But I will say, my attorney, Karen Costello, a previous attorney, in the fall of 2011 said to me, "Your GAL vacations with opposing counsel." And I said, "Well, we need to get this GAL removed." And he said, "That's not going to happen." Well, I believe there was a lot of corruption and cronyism. This is my GAL with opposing counsel, friends on Facebook. My forensic accountant of 30 years came to court. She served as a GAL. She said to me, she said, "Your ex-husband and opposing counsel, you come to court, the GAL is always sitting with them." There wasn't even any sense of propriety to even hide what was going on in this case. And it explains a lot. And if I could just touch upon what I was written up for when I was on supervised visitation. I referred to the ice cream in the refrigerator as my son's favorite and my daughter's favorite. I didn't call it the family ice cream. I brought a poster paper to Dr. Nicholson's office. My son usually liked to do Legos, my daughter artwork. My son decides he wants to do artwork. I cut the page in half. They're both happy. The next week, Dr. Nicholson says to me, "That didn't go well." I said, "What do you mean? Both children were so happy." "You should have had them color on the poster paper together." That's what I was told. This went on constantly. I have 16 months of supervised visitation notes. 2 psychologists looked at. They couldn't find a single thing in there to justify supervision.
So when you were on supervised visitation, there's somebody sitting down writing or taking notes?
Yes. I was criticized for not having the children sit at the dinner table long enough. Criticized for getting up and down and getting dinner and drinks for the kids. I let my son do a load of towels in the laundry. He's really into machinery, and he liked the fact that I had a top loader rather than a front loader and was exploring that. I was criticized for telling my daughter how to spell something, but the young girl he had supervising the visits didn't realize my daughter didn't know cursive and couldn't read it. I was told I was asking my son to be the parent when I asked him how to set up Skype.
Was there a finding that you're somehow dangerous to your children?
No. And it wasn't until Judge Frankel was confronted with 4 doctors' testimonies that she realized a mistake had been made. And tomorrow I have my children overnight through Monday for the first time in 19 months.
Well, I'm glad that will happen.
Thank you.
Representative Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You said that you paid Dr. Nicholson $38,000. And that was, how much of that money was covered by insurance?
Well, between September 2011 and April 2013, he was paid $38,000, only $7,000 covered by insurance.
Any cash, like?
My ex-husband's in construction, and I believe there was more.
So, okay, but from your husband, not from you?
Yes.
Okay. How many times did you meet with the guardian ad litem?
Once with the children in fall of 2011, and here I was on supervised visitation for 16 months. This summer she met the children for the second time and went to his house and met them there.
Do you was ordered, prior to your divorce, to withdraw any life insurance or something like that?
I was ordered, when we were still married, to withdraw $51,000 in life insurance money to pay the guardian ad litem, opposing counsel, and my attorney. And my ex is living in $1 million house and had over a 6-figure income on his financial affidavit.
Couple of more questions. Do you feel that there was any bias in your case?
Yes.
Do you feel that it was
Yes.
that? Can you explain?
I believe the guardian ad litem's relationship with opposing counsel, and I believe the judge was familiar with both attorneys, and I think it colored my entire case. And my own attorney has said she feels she should write a judicial complaint on this judge, but whether she has or will, I don't know.
And in your opinion, can you say there is any corruption, in the system?
Yes. I mean, this GAL, Dr. Nicholson sent my daughter to a psychologist July of 2012. My daughter went there for 8 months. This GAL never called this doctor. And when the doctor went to court to testify to say my daughter should be with me more, she refused to waive privilege. So that, I felt, was corruption.
Did you receive any alimony or child support?
No.
So
No, I got basically my portion of the house I'm being paid out over the next couple of years, which is unfortunate because I was just ordered in December to pay half the GAL bill. I have 0 income. My ex has a 6-figure income, and she made me pay half of it just in December.
Are you working?
I'm looking for a job.
You're looking for a job?
Yes, I have been for 6 months.
And in your opinion, do you think that we need guardians ad litems?
I don't think they should have a relationship with one of the attorneys like mine did. I think they should see the children more.
How many other professionals they were involved, or how many other professionals Dr. Nicholson?
Well, I'd never been to therapy in my life till I decided to divorce this man. I've been to 2 therapists, a psychiatrist, only because I needed their testimony in court to get my children back. My children have been to 2 psychologists, a psychiatrist. There's over 8 professionals, maybe 10.
During that process, did maybe the guardian ad litem at any time spoke with Dr. Nicholson?
She spoke exclusively with him.
So it was a relationship. You
Yes.
can say
At one
yes.
point, he sent me to a 30-year forensic psychologist, and she told me, look, I spoke to the GAL, gave her a great report on you, there's nothing wrong with you, you're a wonderful mother, you still have a great bond with these kids even though you're seeing them so infrequently. And not shortly thereafter, she got a call from Dr. Nicholson trying to fire her to get her off the case because the GAL had called him and told him good things that she had said about me.
And the supervised visit, can you explain a little bit about that? How you go with a supervised visit? How much they charge her?
Well, Dr. Nicholson had never done this before. He got a young girl out of college. She was $35 an hour, which was a good rate, but she would write notes. I mean, everything I did, just ridiculous things. Let me see if I could give you an example. I was accused not doing things with the kids together rather than separately. They were different ages and different sexes, things like that.
So what you're saying is that the person that was doing supervised visit, it was his staff.
Yes, and the psychologist that read the visitation notes told me she'd go to the driveway and tell my ex things that were going on in the visit, and here I was paying her to do the visit. It wasn't professional. And both psychologists Dr. Nicholson referred me to that read all those supervision notes, they said there was bias in those notes by this girl. At one point, one of the psychologists had met with me and the children in her office, and this young girl came in to supervise the visits, take the notes, and send them back to Dr. Nicholson. She criticized me because the children took extra candies out of the candy dish, and my daughter was playing with this hourglass that was plastic that all the children that would go to that office would play with. So I got written up for that, and this 30-year forensic psychologist said, I never would have even thought of those things. So I was continually being mentally, she told me that I was mentally abused, as were the children, by Dr. Nicholson.
I'm sorry, did you testify that you have them back now?
I do.
Okay,
Not
good.
50% of the time, but every other weekend and 2 days during the week, but not overnight.
Right.
And I Jane Doe because I am afraid if he brings me back into court.
I understand.
Well, yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
I don't want to mix up my testimony from different people. How did you feel about shared parenting?
Well, I think it depends on the situation. My ex worked 80 hours a week. I was the primary caregiver. I attended family things by myself with the children all those years. And right now I'd be in favor of shared parenting with him 50% of the time if he were with the kids, but he's paying someone else to be with them. So it would depend on
when
the
I use the
situation.
word, I don't mean to say that. How do you feel about locking people into 50-50? But the notion that there's a presumption that you'd veer from a center line out depending on logistics, like you just referenced.
Well, I think both parents should be with the children.
I think it would have eased the litigation process.
Family Relations recommended 50-50.
Well, thanks.
I have one
Go ahead, Jennifer.
question. So after you explained all of this to us, and you want to be considered Jane Doe, yet you're still saying that there should be 50-50, and I applaud that, because I do believe that there should be 50-50. You work from there, and so I'm so sorry that you've gone through all this, but hopefully it'll get better.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.